need my mask on, do I?
No, wait, we are socially distanced at this point. Is everybody here? What are we
We
doing?
don't know.
Okay.
Wait, view options. I want to view everyone.
We don't.
I can only see you, Will.
And do we, first of all, I have to turn up my volume. Wait.
Here's the control screen.
It's recording, great. 50%. No, that doesn't mean no good. Hit the window.
I'm trying to see where I can see the chat, and I can't seem to see that.
Well, the thing is, I'm trying to get it down to where I can adjust my volume.
I can hear you fine, if you can hear me.
We
Oh,
can't hear
we
it all.
Oh,
Now we can.
Now we can. I broke my
Now
glasses.
Now hit full screen. There you go.
how's my volume? Are we good?
You're good.
We're good. We can hear. Hi, everyone.
Are we? How many people are there?
11. You got 11.
We can wait a few more minutes, I guess. Can we, Ann? Is that okay? Cool with you?
I'm fine with it.
Apparently, I'm just going to pop in like a genie once in a while.
It's funny when you do those backgrounds. They do that kind of crazy stuff.
It is. Oh, there's Star Chatterton.
Chatting.
Chatting. Hi, Star.
There, only the host can share. I'm like,
And you guys are all set. You have about 11 people on, and you can go ahead and introduce Ann and
Great.
keep it moving.
All right.
all right. Welcome, everybody. We can't see you because I'm having Zoom issues. This is Ann Ristyle from Hunter Douglas, raised in both the Midwest and the Pacific Northwest, so she could be conflicted. She's a graduate of the University of Oregon with a bachelor's degree in psychology. She started out in retail sales and then joined Hunter Douglas Fabrication and has been with them for 30 years. So she's been with them for all the ups and downs.
Of window coverings.
And she has been recognized with various sales awards, and including National Salesperson of the Year. She's currently all of our regional sales manager for the Pacific Northwest. Sorry about my glasses.
Dog ate them.
And you're married. You have a college-age son. And it's
Oh,
resides.
she does. She resides.
I thought it said you're restless with a
She's
husband.
restless with her husband.
in Portland. The COVID's getting to everybody, Ann.
That's all right.
Me then I'm told to make this fun. So everyone, we appreciate you joining us, and we are open. And it's not even by appointment. All we ask is give us a call just to make sure that we're here and coherent.
Take it away, Ann Ristoff.
All right. Well, thank you guys. It is different to do this on a Zoom meeting. I'm so used to being in front of people. I have a tendency to move a lot when I present. So you'll get the best of me, and I'll try to stay put. We're going to talk about specifying motorization and window treatments. And as the guys said, well, hello. This is a CEU that will be, we got to get our mouse going. There we go. That is approved. So for those of you wanting credit, this is a 1-hour CEU. You probably know this process even better than I do. However, just so you know, if you can't see my face, this is me. pre-COVID travel. I do live in Portland, Oregon, and my email is at the bottom. So I have, I believe, about 24 hours to get you credit. Please send me an email with your full name. And of course, your email address will be in the recipient or the sender line. And then I just need your ID CEC number, and I will turn it in for credit for you today. So thanks for being here. I hope that we can remove some of the mystery over motorized window treatments. And as you guys know, the practice with CEUs is to talk general, and then I'll take my presenter hat off and share a little bit of extra information and a little information on how you can work with Will and Wayne as well. Our objectives today: give you a better understanding of the home automation industry, which is booming right now, and talk about the potential that motorized shades have for you and your business. And then a few key things to help you recommend motorized window treatments, whether you're doing them yourself or through Will and Wayne or working with an integrator. There's lots of ways to do this, but you do need to know how to power the shades, how to control the shades, and how to plan for those jobs. So let's look at the home automation industry. Many of you probably know the term smart home. And smart home sounds like a really high-tech maybe word or definition, but really what it means is taking different devices and tying them all together through one central, maybe it's a hub, it could be the internet, it could be a platform, so that everything responds together. The Internet of Things is kind of the buzzword right now, and it is a very big industry. The US leads the adoption of that industry with 45 million devices currently installed in homes. That's huge. And they anticipate that this will surpass 150 billion in just 3 years. We've been following this for about 5 to 6 years, and it's just exponential, the growth that you see in this category. When we look at these connected devices, and I'll talk a little bit about what all encapsulates what's included in this category, but think Nest thermostats, think Ring doorbells, think window coverings. 16% of all homeowners currently say that they have a connected device in their home. And I can't see all of you, but I bet if I had a raise of hands, the last time I did this, it was about 3/4 of the audience. So the Pacific Northwest has a tendency to be ahead of the trend rather than behind. So I would bet it's higher in Seattle. And by 2022, this will be almost half of your clients will have a connected device of some sort. Once a person has one connected device, they have a tendency to gravitate towards more and more. So 62% of those people said they had between 2 and 5 connected devices. And what's really nice about knowing more about this category is that 65% of home buyers say that they are willing to spend more for that type of technology. So again, a very encouraging statistic. When we look at these trends, they are driven by some key components: convenience, comfort, tracking capabilities, security, and energy efficiency. And they vary sometimes in priority for different customers. The key is finding out which one your client is most intrigued by. Security has a tendency to jump to the top and stay at the top most of the time. And so let's talk a little bit about that. What form could that come in? Probably the best one is these lockable motorized door locks or automated door locks. Think of this as a pre-programmable lock that you can then say, I want to set a code for. And the beauty of this is, versus leaving like a key under the mat or perhaps a code on your garage door, you could open this up for a contractor, a cleaning person, someone visiting your home for a period of time. So you could set a code, leave that code with your contractor, and then once they're finished, erase the code. So now you've got that sense that you've let somebody in your home, but you've also locked them out. Another component of this that's kind of interesting, last time I did this as a CEU, you can see how long that person's been in your home. So for you designers, imagine if you have a contractor or a painter coming into a home who bills you for 7 hours worth of time and it shows they were only there for 4. kind of unique, right? But there's all sorts of visibility and accountability and security attached to this. How about convenience? What about your coffee pots? What about your refrigerators? They tell you when your filter might need to be replaced. They tell you potentially what's missing in your refrigerator, what you need to go shopping for. You can program these from other devices. In some cases, you can voice command these devices. So that's where the comfort part would come in, or the convenience aspect. One of the most popular devices is the Nest thermostat. This is a great way to really save money, but also have the added comfort and energy savings that's connected to having your thermostat go on when you're home, off when you leave. It gets to know how we function and can anticipate the way we function so that it can turn the heat down or turn it up at a whim. And for most of you, if I asked if you have a connected device, it would be your your Apple Watch. And think about this, that is a lot of times there's a lot of different reasons that different people use them. Like, I got my Apple Watch to tell me that I needed to move. Who would know that I needed it to tell me I need to stand up or sit down? But all of that is, that's my motivation. It might be that somebody else's motivation is to see their emails or the convenience of talking hands-free. So again, different motivations for different clients. And it's hard, I can't see you guys. How's my pace, Will?
It's excellent.
Okay, good. So here's where the fun starts. All of these devices, many of these devices, can also be run by voice command. So this adds another layer of ability to appeal to a different audience. I remember when we first started having voice command for shades, I hadn't even thought about people who are confined to wheelchairs or the aging population. All of that, as the baby boomers get older, these are things that will appeal to them as well. And you can work these devices from a multitude of different platforms. So you could use your iPad. We can do, companies can do a control from a wall. Also, you can use your phone. So, and panels that you see here on this slide. So lots of different ways to control multiple devices, as you see in this photo with this gentleman who's got lighting and plumbing and music and security cameras. We refer to a company or to an industry called trade publication called CE Pro. This is for the integrators. And they, in 2018, and this hasn't really changed a whole lot, took a look at the largest areas of growth within home automation. They're ranked, for you guys, it's clockwise. And so the largest was 4K TVs. And the second largest is the category that window coverings fall in, and that is home networks. So the rest of them you can see laid out, surveillance cameras and all that. But this is, again, very promising for the design industry and for those of us in window coverings. And our 5 key motivations are very similar to the ones I already laid out to you. So let's look at these with regards to window coverings. My message today, because they are so important, let me go back a slide. If we look at motorized shades and we look at security, how would they apply for security? How would that apply? How would that come into play? With security with window coverings, I can actually take a phone and I can program a shade to go up or down when I'm out of town. I can say that I want it to go up in the morning or down at night. So I can make it look like there is somebody living in my home when I'm away from home. If I look at ease of use, that would be the fact that I could do voice command with window coverings, or perhaps for very large shades, I'm not having to worry about the weight of that shade. It just, again, if I program a shade to do what I want it to do, I don't have to worry about going over to a cord and dropping 10 shades before I leave for work. And that's really big. It's a huge time saver for our clients. Child safety for window coverings is key. You may have heard through the years, there have been different choking hazards that have been discovered and strangulation issues. And so we try to avoid selling window treatments with continuous cord loops and with cording because of that. So what could be better than doing a motorized shade with no cords at all? And for many of you, you think of window coverings when in terms of energy efficiency. So window coverings are one of the best ways to save energy in the home, but they only do that when they're in the right position, right? So we can have window coverings up all day long and all that cold is escaping or all that heat is escaping during the cold seasons and all that cold is coming in. So how about if we dial that down and have those window coverings with the ability to go down when I'm away from home and back up, or vice versa in the summer. And finally, we can create a system where our Nest thermostat communicates with the window coverings, where we can connect our Google Home, don't want to say that too loud, to our window coverings so that they can all work together. Wouldn't that be fun?
It would be fun.
It would be very fun. So my message to you is don't be afraid of these. We're going to talk a little bit about how we can make this work for all of you. But as I said, this is a terribly fast growing industry. It is also highly profitable. And so it allows you to sell a product with confidence, improve your profitability, but also improve the satisfaction rate from your customers, because customers who traditionally get motorized shades are customers who traditionally are very pleased for years to come. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this and pass on some helpful hints to aid the discussion with your clients. First question I always get asked, what window covering can I cover in, which ones can I motorize or automate, as we're starting to say? And my message to you is we can pretty much, and most companies can pretty much do every type of window coverings. Some have restrictions where they might not motorize a roller shade or they might not motorize a blind, but pretty much we can do rollers, cellular shades, Roman shades, blinds, maybe just for movement of the vanes, and not up and down. Shutters can be motorized, and even draperies. So I would say that this is one of those times where you can pretty much say, if it's available, I can find something for you. Now, how do we power these shades? That's usually a big question. So let's look at 3 different ways that we can power shades. We have battery ones on your left. These are run with double or triple or sometimes C-cell batteries. We also have an AC power supply, which goes into a standard traditional outlet in the home. And then we have multi-shade power supplies. And those would be where you would be hardwiring from the shade to the power supply. Maybe that sounds like a lot, so let's take a little deeper dive. If we were looking at battery powered shades, this is a super convenient, very friendly in terms of total cost way of doing it. So you just pluck a battery wand onto the back of the shade. Pack is generally hidden from view except from the exterior of the house, and it's very cost effective. And you don't have to really do any planning because it comes with the shade. So very, very simple. What would be the reason not to do this is that these batteries are going to last probably about 1 year. We always joke that they last less in the first year because you're playing with them so much. And then once you get dialed in, it really depends. It's not for most companies, it's not a formula. It depends on the size of the shade and how frequently somebody is operating those shades. So just be aware that you do have a limited life. And I would say, generally speaking, it's safe to quote about 1 year. And for some very large window shades, this would not be an option because there'd be too much weight to pull up or down or run sideways. I would say the other thing that I would add as a con that's not in this would be that in the Northwest, we have a lot of clients who are very green and they don't necessarily like the idea of potentially tossing 12 batteries or however many batteries each company is using. Let me add that there are now some rechargeable battery wands on the market. So that kind of eliminates that as a concern. When we look into plug-in or hardwired shades, this utilizes the outlets that are already existing in a home. So you're not wiring within the wall, you're wiring within the room, basically. This is a great option because it can power large shades and vertical applications. And what I really like about it is that it supplies a consistent amount of power to each shade. So when you have that client who really wants everything to move at a more constant flow, they like everything to come down kind of together. That is based on the amount of power each shade is getting. So if we want them to go at about the same rate, we need to have the same amount of energy going to that shade. I hope that makes sense. In terms of reasons that people don't like to do this, that would be that we have to work within the outlets that are in a room. So patio doors, places like that will often have an outlet specified next to it. But if we've got, let's say 12 window coverings in a room, we've got to be able to access electrical outlets. And, you know, that could be 4 feet away from the top of the window. It could be 12 feet away from the top of the window. I've seen all of the above. So we have varying, or companies have varying lengths of wire, but then that wire is then exposed and you have to hide it or figure out where it's going to go. It's also subject to your electrical, they say, outcome. But if you've got no power, you've got no way to move your shades. You guys follow me? That's always like one of those that people are like, So if my power is out, if your shades and the position of your shades is the #1 thing that you're concerned about, I think we probably are worried more about like, is your refrigerator working and things of that sort. But it is not, the shades would not work if we had a power outage. And we require 1 wire system per window in most cases. So you would wire, each window would have a wire going out of it to that outlet. So that's a lot of wiring. Hardwire shades. This is where a company would run wire within the walls. And so the key on this is that we want to make sure that this is discussed early in the game so that it can be done pre-construction. If you're remodeling, it's a great time when you've got all the sheetrock down and you've got the ability to go through the walls and then cover it back up again. You can often power multiple shades and larger shades with this. And it does provide an incredibly clean look because you're not going to see any batteries from the exterior. The wiring's going through the walls. So it's really fantastic. But you've got to be dealing with new construction or remodel, or you're dragging a lot of wire through walls and a lot of cost in doing that. So again, it would be, the cons would be the cost, the construction basically involved in trying to get it within an existing home. And then in most states and in Oregon and Washington, you do need a contractor to do that wiring. So added cost at the front end as well. There are a few products I need to mention which are hybrid. And by that, I mean that they may use a battery wand, but they are not considered a full motorized shade. So for example, there are companies coming out with products that have a battery wand on the back, but a wand control, where you would push the wand up to move the shade up and pull the wand down when the shade needs to be deployed into its closed position. So these are very intuitive. They're really good for people who maybe not be as tech savvy and they're a little intimidated by a standard motorized shade, but they are battery operated. And they don't enable, or they don't give you the ability to do the voice command to integrate with other products. And when we're faced like with very large shades, this is a great example on a patio door. This is where you're going to always have to have some form of wiring, either to that outlet or through the wall system. Something this large would not perform well with the battery operated system. So any company would tell you that once you start to get really large, some of the condos that you see, even with like large roller shades, all of that's going to require some wiring depending on the specs within each manufacturer. So the next thing we need to look at is, I guess I should see, are there any questions really quick? Don't think so. We're good. Okay. So how are we going to control those shades? So we know how, and we now know how they are powered, but how are we going to control them? And there are a lot of different options for this. The number one option is usually utilizing a remote control of some sort. So remote control generally requires a radio signal or uses a radio signal. And you're utilizing just a remote control like you see on that second photo in, with buttons that'll say, I'm going to move shade 1 or shade 2. They'll move them up or down. They'll take them to whatever degree of openness you might want some light control with. But that is the most frequently requested option. It's also the option that oftentimes people say, I don't think I want to do motorized shades, because I always kind of laugh and think, how many remotes do we all have in our homes? How many of those remotes can we find when we really want them? So I like to take it to the next step and say that you have other options that we can start to do all the fun programming. So all of us have our phones with us most of the time. So most companies have some sort of an app that you see here on this tablet where you can manipulate the shades from your telephone, from your cell phone rather, from your iPad, from your Android app. You can also do wall switches. Wall switches are sometimes desired when you have maybe someone who is maybe not as tech savvy, because traditionally we would see the scene or the command up or down, or maybe shades closed. So again, that's an option when you have somebody who just says, I don't like technology, but I want the advantages of being able to program this technology or utilize the technology. Any questions? I think I'm just going to keep an eye on that in case. Yes, Will?
On the switch, we're talking about sending a radio signal to the shade, though. It's not wired to the shade.
Correct. Now, there are companies that have wiring for both control and for power. We also have something like that. So there are multiple ways. In general, that's where you're going to take it to here. It used to be very common that people did a lot of wired for control. That was kind of the beginning of motorized shades, and it was always extremely expensive. It's kind of gotten far less expensive now to start working through apps. But wired for control is always interesting because we've all become, probably more so with COVID, couch potatoes, and we're not wanting to get up and move to the wall switch to operate our shades because of this little guy, right? If we can work it on our devices and not move off our sofas, that's probably the way that most people are looking. So that makes sense, Will?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Ann.
Yeah, good question. So integration, what does that mean? Integration basically means I am going to work through the internet, through a hub, through some sort of way that I can capture all of these different devices so that they can work together. So it might be that I have my cameras and the screen that you saw a little bit earlier in the presentation, that I want to look at how my lighting could coordinate with my Nest thermostat, how my Nest thermostat can say, now that it's gotten to be 75 degrees in my home, I need all the shades to go down to keep the sunlight out. So that is what integration is about. And it's, again, becoming more and more popular. Oops, sorry. And when we talk about integration, we start to look at lots of different ways to do this. So in the, I will say, old days, in the beginnings of motorization, integration really came with a very hefty price tag. As Will said, you're wiring to wall switches, you're working with touch pads that are specific to a particular brand. Those would be your Crestron, your Savant, your Elan that you see on the screen in front of you, your Control 4. Those are wonderful ways of getting the lighting and the security and everything to work from a device. Whether the device be mounted on the wall, whether the device is sitting in your lap. You can do the if this, then that, can help coordinate in many cases. Again, that if I'm leaving at 5 o'clock in the morning, then I want this to happen. I want, the coffee pot to go on at 5:30. The lights to go off, And I think this all just is driven by the fact that we are all very much creatures of habit, right? Pre-COVID, I bet everyone on this call knew what time they got up in the morning, what time they left, what time they returned. And I always use the example that in my house, I mean, I knew that the sun in the summertime was coming around at noon and that it was gone by 5. And that's where in the summertime, things really, really, really heated up. So, you know, the idea that I can program those shades so that I don't have to think about it in the morning, there's my savings in time, but I can also have those programmed to go down and keep heat out and then go back up. That would happen every day. That is my summer schedule for the back of my house. Now, 2 weeks ago, weather changed. My schedule is completely different. And so what I need with that is now I'm worried more about cold. I'm worried about privacy because the trees behind my house lose some of their leaves. And you know, you want that cozier feeling. So now my shades are up all day to let the sunlight do its warming. And when we have sunlight in the Northwest, I should say with a caveat. But we also have that ability to then, you know, let those go up at 6 a.m. to wake me up and then down at night to give me full privacy. So you have a lot of wherewithal to customize to your client's experience, to your own experience, and really, again, maximize the potential with these products. So fast forward a little bit further, then we have these products that all of us are getting very familiar with. I wish I could see a show of hands on how many people have like a Amazon Alexa or a Google Home Assistant or an Apple HomeKit. But all of these now have brought a lot of those benefits down to a very reasonable price. So we can get the shades to operate by offering a command. And I'm not going to do it because my Google will go off, but you know, you can do it by voice command. So again, now we're appealing to a different way of working, and yet doing it, if we did batteries, if we do it with that, with those systems at a much lesser cost. So I think that's where people are really starting to have a lot of fun, because it's no longer this, you know, 2% of the population that is interested in doing this. As you saw in my earlier slides, it's a much broader base of client. Whoops, I'm sorry, you guys, that didn't work. Oh, lovely. Hold on, technical difficulties as I, well, hold on. Okay, close your eyes, everyone. Let's see if I can get out of here. Okay, where do we go? Sorry. Got to remember that I have, come on. Oh, you dog. Okay, close your eyes. My apologies. All right, there we are. Okay, step 3, planning. You guys still with me? Everybody got motion sickness? No vertigo? Will? Good, he's on mute. All right. How do we plan for jobs? Sorry about that, folks. The main thing on this is, if this is not your wheelhouse, I always tell designers, stay in your wheelhouse, stay in your lane. It's a lot to take on. You have maybe got a little bit today to understand a little of the preliminary. So the main thing with these jobs is planning. They are big, they are very profitable, but they also do require a very strong amount of planning. So whether you're partnering with William and Wayne, if you know, some of you may have your own accounts, I would encourage you to go to someone who has done this before and work with a specialist. We always say that it's all about the communication. And we have this little slide because designers can work with a homeowner, but the designers can also work with a specialist. And the component I think that we see that gets left out the most is the installers. When we talk to installers, when we talk to people about these jobs after the fact and try to figure out, like, how did it go well? How did it not go well? The installer's most common question or comment is, I wish I would have been brought in earlier. I wish I would have seen that there was this obstacle. I wish that they would have told me that, you know, this was a 3-story skinny little house with very little communication. So we really highly encourage everyone to sit down and have a good conversation about it ahead of time, so that the expectation can be most accurately met with the client, and everybody knows their role too, and everybody knows what their role within the project is. Oops, this little guy is sensitive today. All right, so that time invested will pay in dividends, because again, as I said, there's a lot that goes into these jobs. There's a lot of pre-planning that goes into these jobs, picking the right product, of course, and the right way to power it, and the right way to discuss it through the whole process. But when you get these jobs, we are seeing jobs that are very, very large in scale, and you'll have customers who are very thrilled to have products that then can integrate with these other systems that they're all investing in their homes. So that being said, I wanted to leave plenty of time. I know I talk fast, so I want to see if there are some questions. See, 4 answered questions. Okay, so it looks like maybe, Will, have you been answering? So because
Wayne's been answering some.
been answering. Okay, well, the top down bottom ups, yes, absolutely can be motorized. Generally speaking, he's right. No retrofitting on motorization. The wiring is based on what system you're using. Again, I can't speak to other companies, but it is generally low voltage, and it is depending on whether it's wired for communication and power or both. And placing a trend. So yeah, there's a power supply. And then the other component that comes into play is generally called like a hub, depending upon the company that's selling it. So you're going to work off of Wi-Fi in most cases, and you're going to be needing to communicate through what's called a hub, which then sends the signal out to all of the shades. So you need to have very good Wi-Fi within a house and very good clear path from that device to all of the shades to be able to get the signal. So every company works a little differently, but you can duplicate that signal within a home. That gets a little bit, that's why the installers like to see the jobs beforehand. If you've got like a 3-story house, it may be hard to get the signal from the first floor to the top floor. Or if you've got a really long, skinny house, you may have to do multiple hubs or devices to continue that signal. But those are all things that, like I said, a specialist will assist with. So I hope that answers that. And, oh, thank you. So, so on that note, I also wanted to just talk briefly about if there are any questions. I can take my little CEU hat off. And if there are any questions that are directed at Will or at us for Hunter Douglas things, I'm happy to do that. I wanted to talk to you just quickly about working within our program and with William and Wayne. And I don't know why that's not moving. Do we change something? Okay, so let's just talk quickly about what's called our design trade program. And many of you may have seen this, maybe many of you may not. So what we have just started to kind of launch in the last year and a half is a trade program for you, the designer, that gives you a little bit more support than you might have seen in the past, and allows us to better support William and Wayne, who are program certified Hunter Douglas dealer in the Seattle market. So this program guarantees trade pricing on all orders, but it also would guarantee that if you partnered with someone in another market, let's say a client in San Diego, that we would be able to help you accommodate that. And as a part of that, we also have the ability to give you complimentary swatches. So what we ask of you on this is that we get you kind of logged in and dialed in so that you can work and make those kind of requests directly to Hunter Douglas. Will and Wayne have the ability to order those for you, but it's just an extra kind of concierge service that if you have some questions, if you have Hunter Douglas specific questions and you can't get hold of them, that we have people on staff who are ready and willing to work with you. And then we want to do some seminars that are specific to PowerView, our motorization system, and other events to help support you in your business and help support our group of certified dealers. How you go about getting involved in this program. And I will add, we've started doing some promotions too. So maybe it's $25 off of a shade for a designer or a 5% off an order. Those, once you sign up with us, we can email those directly to you. And then you would bring that offer into Will and Wayne, and they would be able to honor that in placing the order with you. So at no cost to them, no additional expense to them. So when we go into, for example, the hunterdouglas.com website, you will see on the homepage a little thing here that says for professionals. And you'll see a Hunter Douglas designer or trade program. You just click on that. And from there, we have just a little form for you to fill out to verify that you are ASID, IIDS, whatever affiliation that you have. We need your membership number and your resale certificate, business license, and you can scan all of those and upload those. And again, this is not to order directly through us. It's really to give support to you as you work your business, and also to offer you some communications that could help support you in understanding a little bit more about our products. So we are building this network nationwide. We've just really worked on it in the last 6 months, and it's becoming more and more robust. So I hope that if you haven't already, once you fill out this form, what'll be nice is that you'll then have basically, it's not an account number, but it's an ID number that you would then supply to Will and Wayne, and they would be able to then, again, take advantage of any of those promotions that we might be offering. So if there's any questions on that, I'm happy to answer that. And I see one more question that came through. Who can help with the layout needed for electrical? Maybe, Will, you'd like to talk about that, but generally speaking, go ahead, Will. I see you taking your mask off. Did you want to answer?
Well, I was just going to say that the basic layout, that's an electrician or a specialist that just handles home integration systems. But as a designer, to get the project started, we have enough information both to provide you and the contractor or the GC on the project about how to anticipate what they're going to need to take into account. But as long as your drywall isn't up, this is pretty straightforward. And you have not created any, basically, if you can run speaker wire, you're in a good position. It's really a very simple system, and we can review the two PowerView ways of doing it. The only system, and it's new for this year, and I'm learning, is the new Somfy motors, which are a true household current system.
So we use a PowerView motor. So PowerView is the system that Hunter Douglas used. And PowerView traditionally has only been wired, or it's been only a communication system, and we've only done wiring for power. So to Will's point, some people have even had security guys wire because you're just running speaker cable. I mean, it's not high voltage. And then there are little male-female clips that clip out from the wire in the wall, which is traditionally wired to the top right-hand side of the window and then out of the shade. And then the installer is just clipping that together. Those wires would run to the power supply, that little junction box. Keep in mind that junction box has to be hidden. You wouldn't want to see that sitting out on your wall. So most people put it in a closet. They might put it in the basement. They might put it in an armoire or a cabinet. Any of that's optional. But your wires are going to go from that to the product. And we say armoire, I guess I should say like built-ins, not something away from the wall. But you could hide it anywhere you want. But all the wiring's got to go directly back to that power supply box. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's low voltage. There is a new system called PowerView AC, which is wired for both power and for communication. And that is a little different. And that is where you're taking the element of needing to deal with signals and interference that can occur. And you're running all your communication through the walls. And that is a little bit more of a bring in an electrician, a little different wiring that's involved. But any of the companies that are doing that, there's Lutron, there's Hunter Douglas, the Somfy stuff, they use very similar wire. And so if a house was pre-wired, for example, for Lutron, we would be able to use that Lutron wiring. It's not, or the same style of wire. So all of that is new as of this spring. Again, it's a little more expensive, but anytime you keep adding these layers, and especially with hard wiring, you're adding a little bit more reliability in terms of how quickly the shades operate and how quiet they are, et cetera, et cetera. Does that kind of answer what you were getting at? Will, I think.
Yes, it does. But these are still, the shades are still running off, for the most part, radio signals.
Yes, and yes.
For the most part, on the enhanced.
That's PowerView. That's
on the enhanced system.
Yeah.
On the enhanced system.
Yeah.
And then there is a third alternative, which we're not going to get into right now.
I was going to say, you're going to 401 college level motorization. This was intro.
Right. And what I'd say to anyone who's watching or listening, Wayne and I and myself are happy to discuss any of these systems. And I will say they were all introduced in our spring training session, which was canceled.
Right.
Which is why you hear me a little bit of fumbling, because I will say, Anne, your presentation of all this was much more amusing than the ones I tried to watch at home.
Oh, good.
In wine.
So that being said, this is a quick moving ship. It's, there are enhancements all the time. To Will and Wayne's point, it's been a big year for adding a couple of new things. This new system he was talking about is only limited to 2 products, primarily because the roller shades especially are getting very large, condos and things of that sort, and they need to have that wired system. But that's where it goes back to that comment I made about the communication, and love that slide. I didn't make it, but it's really about the fact that you got to have a dialogue early in the game. You've got to start this early. You don't want to get in late in the system with the client. I mean, you guys know your clients. If you're doing full service design, you want to start talking about this stuff very, very early, because if somebody's going to close up the walls, it may be too late, right? So this is let's talk about what we're doing early. Let's bring in the specialists. If we need to bring in an electrician, if we need to bring in an installer, and all of this can be done, and it can be really painless. It can also be really painful if you don't do it in the right steps. So not to scare anybody, but it really is what it is. So so thank you all. It's so to me, I love answering questions in the middle of everything. So and I'm sorry about the technical difficulties, but it's always fun when you're working from home, as everybody knows. So I so much appreciate everybody hanging in there and the good questions that have come about. And last but not least, there's our two friends. I want to thank them for asking me to, to participate today, and making sure there's no more questions. And just a reminder, if you want credit for this, please, please, please email me. And it's Ann, A-N-N, period, R-I-S, as in Sam, T as in Tom, A as in Apple, U as in unicorn, at hunterdouglas.com. And if you need the email address, if you don't remember it, reach out to Will and Wayne, they'll get it to you. But I will be reporting those tomorrow and tomorrow afternoon, and making sure that you guys all get credit. So on that note, is there anything else? We good? How we're doing on questions, making sure. See any more? Oops, I'm clicking on the wrong buttons. Okay, I think we're solid. All have a wonderful afternoon. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thanks for inviting me into your offices and your homes today. Have a good one.
And we thank everybody also. Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, hi, Wayne.
Bye-bye.